Yeah, I guess Adrian didn't get the memo on the dress for the press conference. But, wow, what a great game. We talked before the game about this was two really good football teams that were going to battle all the way down. I was telling Coach Beck before the game and talked about this is going to be a great one as long as, you don't have a flood of turnovers on one side of the ball or something like that. And I thought it was a great game. It certainly wasn't the cleanest game to sit here. We had a punt blocked. We drop a punt on the 5-yard line. Last week we lose our punt returner who's down this week, and so you put in the backup. And I think Zuber's a really talented young man and does a lot of really good things. And he's done this before, and he just went in. And unfortunately, we just put the ball on the 7-yard line that led to 7 points. But football game. But I'm just really proud of our players that they kept hanging in there. They kept banging that rock. And, even with all the mistakes, to score 30 points against that defense, it's been giving up 222 yards a game. Just really proud of our players and the way they fought. Great game. Thank you to the people of Birmingham that came out. I hope those that came out had a great time and enjoyed the environment, and you'll come again next week because we get to do this again next week. So everybody that was there plus more, we'd like to see this thing continue to grow. But the crowd was great at some points. I thought they were loud. They made some noise. They definitely helped fuel us along the way. So I'm very appreciative to all the fans that were there, the noise they made. And it's a great environment. Every player wants to play in that type of environment where it's electric, there's excitement and energy, two great teams, and you know that a game like that is going to come down to one mistake could get you beat. One mistake. A lot of these games are one-play games, and you could change probably 10 different plays in that game, and it changes the outcome of the game. Just one play. Change the block punt. Change the drop punt return. Change their turnover where they threw an interception. Just two teams fighting their tails off. But I am very, very proud that our team was able to come away with a victory today, even with some of the mistakes we made. And we got to go back to the drawing board. We got to get better. And we got to get ready for Houston because we go at it again next week. 3 of the final 4 at home. That means 2 of the first 6 were on the road. So you know what? It's nice to be home for 3 of the final 4. Now it's going to be 2 of the final 3. And excited to be back here next week.
Questions?
Hey, Coach. First off, you look great. Second, you've beaten 6 out of the 7 teams outside of yourself in the league. How do you keep that competitive edge as you move forward, knowing you're probably going to have to play some challenging games down the road with Michigan, second in your conference, and possibly facing St. Louis again?
Well, we still have a long way to go. And, I would tell you that they're a really good football team. If we got to play them again, you got them. You've got San Antonio. Houston has beaten us 2 of our 3 losses since we've been doing this thing. Anybody can beat anybody. And that's the thing. We can't get tied up in, you got to play them and got to play them and got to play. We got 3 more games in our regular season, and any one of those teams can beat us if we don't show up. And if we make some of the mistakes like we did yesterday, we were just able to overcome some of them. But I think for us, it's just a matter of falling in love with the process of what it's going to take to become great. And when this season's over, that's when you look up and you go, you know what? We weren't bad. You know what? We were a pretty good football team. But it's not going to be until then am I going to start looking backwards. Because right now, we will enjoy this. I will throw up over the mistakes we made. I will get sick. I will be nauseous. And I will wake up tomorrow motivated to get them fixed. You know what I mean? And so will this team. And that's one of the reasons that this has worked.
Coach, on defense, dealing with some injuries, you've had Scooby Wright go down, DeMarcus Gates, and one guy that's really stepped up week in and week out, Kayava DeZino, who made the big stop at the end. Can you speak a little bit on what he's brought to this defense and this team? And you're familiar with him playing Pittsburgh Maulers last year, so
Yeah.
what does he bring to this defense?
And it's not only Scooby and Gates, but it's JoJo Tillery, who's a leader in our secondary. Chris Jackson went down last week. We had Lorenzo Burns, who's our starting nickel, went down last week. You start to look at the number of, I want to say there's about 7 or 8 starters that are not on this football team right now, as we are 7 games into it right now. And so there's a lot of new faces, and every one of those guys, I'm talking about JoJo and Lorenzo and Scooby, and those are leaders. Those are guys that have been on this team for 2 and 3 years. And so to have Tizino there with his level of play, with his competitive nature, with his attitude and the intangibles that he carries and the way that he plays the game, he's a leader. He's a leader, and I'm certainly glad that we have him. I remember when you start talking in the off season, it's like, well, you got Gates and you got Scooby and you got Floyd and you got Sullivan, and then you signed Tizino, and it's like, wow, you got a really crowded room. And then there was one, you know what I mean? And the one that's in there is a warrior. I mean, he's a champ and he's leading. So I'm certainly glad I have him, and his play, his leadership. Played against him last year. Great respect for the young man. It's one of those things, if you can't beat him, you know what, join him. I think he had like 12 tackles against us, and it was like, son, I want you on our roster. You know what I mean? When he became a free agent, we did everything we could to get him. And I thought Zach worked really hard at trying to sign him, and it was certainly nice to get him signed. And didn't realize how big of a piece of the puzzle it was going to be until all of a sudden you get a couple games in and your other starters are out.
Adrian, Coach just talked about a lot of the turnover with the team, and this is your first year with the Stallions. But one of the things that has seemed to be true with this team over the years is no matter the ebbs and flows of the game, it seems like the team has been able to sort of lock in, be level-headed, and that certainly seemed to be the case today with some really big mistakes that could have easily spiraled, but the team sort of always responded. So could you talk a little bit about the culture and just what it's been like to be a player in this organization and kind of where that mentality comes from?
Yeah, I think you hit it. I'd give a lot of credit to Skip and the culture that he's built here. And, I know coming in, it was said that there's been 50% turnover year in and year out. From year 1 to year 2 to year 3, there's been a couple things staying the same, and one of those things is Skip. And I think he's done a great job of building the culture and making sure that there's a standard. He knows what it looks like, what it should look like week in and week out. 1-0 mentality. And I think a lot of guys bought into that, and that's part of why you see the success on the field.
Adrian, I have this one for you also. It seemed like at the beginning of the year, Coach was going back and forth between you and Matt Corral. Can you talk about, it seems like Coach is now giving you the reins for the football team on the offense, and also talk about how important your scrambling ability has been, especially today.
Yeah, well, and Matt and I are going to continue to compete, and I think any given week it could be either one of us. So for me, that's been my mindset, and that's part of being competitive and having 2 talented guys. And hey, it's the UFL. We all want to get to the NFL, and it's part of how it goes. And then in terms of my scrambling abilities, for me, I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate that the receivers understand that the O-line understands that, and allows me to continue to extend plays, and guys get open. It's not sometimes it looks super unscripted, but we've practiced it before, and I think guys can expect it now when we play another team.
This is for either of you. Well, on the Kevin Austin's touchdown pass, it's 15-yard slant that turns into 40. Was there something you saw defensively that you thought that might happen, or was it just him making a play with his speed?
No, actually, I thought it was designed to be a high-low type of concept. He was the under part of the route. They over-pursued it. I thought Adrian did a great job in a long yardage situation and not trying to force the ball down the field, but he took what the defense gave him. He hit the underneath guy who was coming back from the outside. They were going out to where he was throwing the ball, and it just, you know what I mean? He crossed it. I thought it was a great job of the quarterback at taking what the defense gave him and throwing the ball underneath. We talked the series before about when we had thrown the corner route and talked about the underneath route. And I thought he did a great job of taking that. You talk to him about it. He blends it into his game. The next series, he takes the underneath, and then Kevin hit it going against traffic and went to the house. So Kevin can run. I mean, I was happy for Kevin because, I think he's really coming along. He's doing some good things. The ball has not found him as much as you would like for it to with the progress that he's making. I know he dropped the ball earlier on a 2-point play, and so it was really nice to see him make the play and have an opportunity to stretch his legs and show a little bit about his speed. So it was nice to see. And I would just say this about Adrian scrambling. I think people, because he's had a couple 300-yard games, we're seeing a lot of things in coverage, and I give St. Louis an awful lot of credit. They mixed things up. It was never two, it was like cover 0, cover 2, cover 1, cover 3, cover 0. I mean, they were mixing it up like crazy. But what I think Adrian's doing a really good job is that when they start playing coverage and start playing brackets and 3-over-2 and 4-over-3, where they're trying to outnumber in the passing game, I think some of our biggest plays were on long yardage situations was when Adrian ran. And that's where I think he's got, Adrian came here to be a quarterback, and I think he's doing a phenomenal job. He does have great feet, but he's also got a great mind and he's got a great arm, and he's displaying that. And I don't want him to be just a passer. I want him to continue to be able to use his feet, but I don't want him to be just a runner. You know what I mean? I want him to understand the difference. When's it time to tighten your laces, and when's it time to, to kind of put your arm to use and start to throw some passes. We're going to argue for a long time on whether it was time to throw it to the fade to Dion down the end in a 4-minute offense drive. We're going to continue to debate that throw. But
No comment.
But I do think the combination of the way he's throwing the ball, the accuracy that he's throwing the ball, the way he's reading defenses, he is protecting the ball. He's doing a really nice job, and he's also learning to utilize his feet when everybody's dropping back and he's not forcing the ball into coverage.
Adrian, you hit, I think, 10 different receivers today, and you talk about how you try to look for them and make sure that everybody gets their share, but how much more confident are you knowing that you have so many targets to choose from?
Yeah, we have a very talented roster, and I think a lot of guys who at any given moment can take the top off of the defense, whether that's even our tight ends, Jordan or Jace or Marcus. I think all of them have shown that spurt of being able to do that. And then obviously our outside guys, our slots, we have a lot of talented guys. So there's no, all right, I want to try and force the ball to this guy. It's, well, hey, let's just read this. Let's stay within the offense. Any of these guys can win on their routes, whether it's press man or it's a zone coverage. I have a lot of confidence that those guys will do what they need to do to be open.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate it.
Giddy up.